Hello, everyone, and welcome to A More Perfect Podcast. I am your host, Mike Winson, and today we are 5 days into the new the new term of the new president. I'm probably going to try and use his name as little as humanly possible because I don't want to. I think about it like Beetlejuice. We don't want to bring him here. And he's done a lot. So we're going to talk about some of the stuff. Today, as always, we have a wonderful friend with us, Theory, who has been on multiple episodes, but only one of them has gone live so far. And that's my fault. But anyways, we'll talk. We'll worry about that some other time. So, hello, how are you doing?
It's been 5 days. That's it. This is the longest year of my life.
This has been crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot believe we are only 5 days into a presidency, and we probably could do 5 hours of content in already, like an hour of content for every single day that he has been president easily.
I don't know that my mental health has the capacity to do that, but yeah, we technically could.
I'm not sure my throat has the capacity to do that. But what we're going to talk about today are specifically all of the executive orders that have been passed from the hour after Trump was put into office, plus a few other things that have gone on that we want to make sure we talk about because...
Wait. Oh my God. You know what I just thought of? Have you ever worked on a group project and there's somebody who inundates you with stuff at the beginning and then you never see them again?
Yeah.
And then at the end they take credit for anything that happened.
Yeah.
That's what this feels like. Sort of
Probably.
I'm going to do a whole bunch of stuff really early on.
Yeah. Well, he can't go golfing now because it's snowing in Florida. So he might as well, pretend to work some and then he'll go golf for the rest of the 4 years. Or
we gotta get Florida some heaters. Okay.
Okay. So executive orders, multiple executive orders we want to talk about. We'll talk about some of the quick ones and then we'll go into the deeper ones. Removal from the Paris Climate Agreement. Not a shocker. He did it the last time he was president. Not surprised he did it again.
Mm-hmm. I think
obviously bad.
Obviously bad. There was a meme circulating. I don't know how many of you people are forever online, but there was a meme circulating showing the map of the Paris Climate Agreement countries and the WHO, and it's just so shocking to be like, hello, we clearly belong on these maps. I have a theory though. Well, it's not so much a theory, although that's my name, but this idea of good billionaire versus bad billionaire. Mm-hmm. So we have the broligarchs who are Bezos and Zuck and Musk. But then we have people like Michael Bloomberg, who has always positioned himself as sort of the good billionaire, who has since stepped up and said that he will fund the money that America has taken out of the Paris Climate Agreement. So... Wow. I wonder if we're going to get more of the Cubans, Mark Cuban, not Cubans, the people, Mark Cuban, Mike Bloomberg, billionaires trying to sort of fight with the broligarchs, which is still dystopian, still sucks.
It's still, but you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at, and we'll talk about, we're going to be talking about World War II again today, later, but, in World War II, it didn't start until some people in power realized things were wrong and started making changes in some of those places. I mean, Schindler's List was a thing for a reason, that. So,
and if we have an oligarchy, we might as well have good oligarchs, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So obviously, Paris Climate Agreement bad. I will jump to this one too. Removal the U.S. from the World Health Organization. Yeah. Again, also very bad. It's not happening right away. We've had a lot of discussions with some people on it. The rule is you have to give them a year in advance before you can leave the World Health Organization. So this time next year, if nothing changes, we will be out of the World Health Organization, which is
COVID season next year.
Well, and forget COVID season. They're saying that the avian flu will the bird flu will become transmissible person to person probably within about 18 months. So it's great that we'll be leaving WHO right before we will most likely see it become another pandemic in this country.
How else will we be convinced to keep going to work for the oligarchs otherwise?
Exactly. Okay. I'm trying to think. I want to do the more simple ones that are just like, this is dumb. Oh, changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
Listen, there's a side of me that's like, this is hilariously dumb. But then there's the other side of me that realizes that this is just colonialism on steroids.
No, I mean, I'm not going to deny you're wrong, but let's be fair. This is Donald Trump trying to make it seem like his e-peen is bigger than everyone else's and be like, look how cool I am. America. Let's put America everywhere because nobody can stop. Like, that's all he's doing. There's no other purpose. It's about as ridiculous as Elon changing Twitter to X because I still call it Twitter. I will always call it Twitter because the only reason he changed it to X is because he wanted to be like, this is mine now. And Twitter wasn't his, but X is now his. That's the only reason he did it. It's the only reason the Gulf of Mexico is changing to America. The rest of the world is going to call it the Gulf of Mexico. Half of this country is going to call it the Gulf of Mexico.
I have to say, the Mexican president may be my favorite person.
I love her. I love her so much.
Can
we start calling this place Mexican America?
What?
When the Mexican president first heard this whole Gulf of America crap, she went on TV, put a map and called the United States Mexican America.
Yeah.
I think we should start calling this place Mexican America.
So bad. I don't want to go on a tangent about how much I am obsessed with this woman, but she gave pensions to women over the age of 60, regardless of what they did for a living, because she says, quote, they helped raise an entire generation and did not receive payment. You want to talk about imagining a world outside of the stupid capitalism we have now? She's doing it.
And remember,
she also said the rest of the world is going to call it what it is, the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah. Do you remember when she first became president? I remember when the conversations we were having when she first became president and how many people were like saying she's in the pockets of the cartel and all this other stuff. And I was like, I mean, I had no information one way or another, so I couldn't straight out disagree with it. But there was this part of me that's like, would we have said that if it was anyone else other than a woman?
No. And we might have down the line. We might have.
Especially because it was Mexico, unfortunately. Yeah. Okay, so again, dumb. It's just dumb. It's the Gulf of Mexico, people. Just get over it. And of course, people like DeSantis are already, trying to get books changed with all the stuff in it and everything else.
I'm so scared to alert people. It's very easy to change textbooks.
Yeah,
I worked for a company that did that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. Declaring an energy emergency so the government can force people to build things and ignore climate regulations. I mean, that's he's keeping his promise. What can we say?
It's one thing to leave the Paris Climate Agreement. It's another thing to leave the Paris Climate Agreement and also just start fracking everywhere.
Yeah. Well, and what's worse about it? So I've been watching some different people who are who are in the oil and gas industry. And, one of the big things that came from this, this executive order was they opened up Antwerp. I guess it's an area in Alaska. Mm-hmm. He's like, this person that I watch, his name is Mr. Global. He's great. If you don't watch him, watch him. He's like, nobody wants to drill in Antwerp. It's above the Arctic Circle. It is in the middle of nowhere. The amount of money it would take to just get the supplies there to drill in the first place and get it out, it would cost you billions up there. You can do the same thing in this country for pennies on the dollar. Not to mention, we're just gonna jump in on it. we already are producing more oil than we ever have. We already refine at max capacity in this country. And even if we drilled more, we could not do any more. So it would not help us at the gas pump.
And what do you think happens? What do you think happens to prices of things when the overhead to produce those things increases?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think happens?
They're not going to do it.
Pays for the factories and like whatever it is, the oil rigs to do all this work? The taxpayer does. The consumer of the gas.
Yep.
Businesses in America, especially under this version of capitalism, have gotten away with and continue to get away with putting every single business expense on the backs of consumers. So you will pay for it.
And
you will pay.
To jump onto putting the expense of the businesses onto the backs of others, come February 1st, he wants to instill a 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada, as well as a 10% tariff on China, which I do find ironic that China has dropped so much to only 10 from 60%.
It looks like he listened to economists or maybe TikTok. I don't know.
What more can we say that we haven't already said on this podcast about how ridiculous tariffs are? I watched one woman who was great in the sense of she admitted she's not an economist and she didn't understand why places like Canada and Mexico are so upset and nervous about the 25% tariffs because Americans pay the tariff. Why would they be nervous? It's like, okay, so I want everyone to listen. If there's anyone else who doesn't understand why tariffs are bad, American companies pay the tariffs. They will put those tariffs on. They will put that extra expense on the people buying it. But here's the part that you all need to understand. We all, and I'm putting myself in theory in on this, we are all on a specific income. We make a specific amount of money, usually not enough.
Yeah.
So if the places where we buy most of our lumber, most of our oil, most of our vegetables, most of our fruits, most of the stuff that has to do with us buying cars, if that is all increased by 25%.
At least. 25%.
Let's say you all, everyone listening, we all have $500 a month to buy groceries. That's not changing. So if everything that we are buying costs 25% more, what's happening? We're buying 25% less stuff.
Yeah.
And who do you think is going to be affected by us buying 25% less stuff?
Canada and Mexico.
Canada and Mexico.
Yeah.
That is why they are afraid. So what do? They increase tariffs on stuff that they import to make up the cost of the losses of income from the tariffs. Yep. That is why you have trade wars.
And the reason that we call them trade wars, is because economics and economists have argued that sanctions and tariffs aren't a form of violence, physical violence, but that they are inflammatory and that they do relate to the way that countries interact with each other. There are economists now who are arguing that sanctions, especially like the ones we've placed on Iran over time, are a form of violence because, like you just perfectly laid out, you are essentially starving people. If you only have $500 to spend at the grocery store, not only are you buying 25% less produce at the store, you're eating 25% less food.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get that source of nutrition anywhere else. So even though we use soft terms like trade war, there is a real violence that happens from these types of tariffs and sanctions.
Absolutely. And I do want to point out, because we've talked about it, he hasn't mentioned it since the beginning because he didn't actually make an executive order about this. But I also want to mention that he did talk about this external revenue service, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. But
He wants to get rid of the IRS and
he wants to get rid of the IRS and make the ERS. The funny thing is what the ERS would do is what Customs and Border Patrol already does.
Yeah, well,
which is collect tariffs. That being said, I want to point out that one of the main reasons that we went through as bad of a depression as we went through was because of tariffs. It was because of the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, which raised tariffs on agriculture and manufacturing from the 25 major countries that we imported agriculture from. And what's the main thing that we get from one of these people he's talking about tariffs? Most of the produce that we eat in this country, a majority, over 60%.
How do you think we have strawberries in New England in December?
Strawberries, tomatoes, avocados,
pineapples,
and so many more things.
Citrus. Yeah.
I want you guys to also hear that one of the main reasons that the president now has the power over tariffs is because of the Smoot-Hawley Act. It's considered one of the worst decisions by a Congress in the history of this nation, to the point that they decided to give the ability to put tariffs into one person's hand. That's how bad of a decision this was.
Mm-hmm.
And now they want to do it again.
This conversation has just made me think about something that I have not thought about in like 10 years. They always talk about making America great again, and they're always referencing the past. They're always mentioning history. Maybe we should look historically at congressional decisions that have been notoriously awful and think that they're wanting to do that again, because McCarthyism is one of them. Comstock Law is another one. Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act is another one. So maybe in order to understand their playbook better, we just need to get better at history and start looking at terrible congressional decisions.
But they don't want to look at the past unless the past is helpful to them. They have been saying it. It's actually been really funny. A lot of Congress has been interviewed, and they've been asking them about something we're about to talk about, which is the J6 pardons.
Mm-hmm.
And if they think it's okay that that people that have committed violent acts towards police officers have gotten pardoned, and it's like they were all taught the same response, which is, we don't want to look at the past, we want to look at the future.
Yeah, we're not interested in the past.
Which, by the way, I find ironic, because they have just started a subcommittee whose only purpose is to look at January 6, 2021.
I mean, you don't even have to go that deep, though, Mike. Like, literally, their whole campaign is about taking us back.
True.
And now they don't want to look at the past.
True.
They only want to look at the distant past, but not the recent past.
That's fair.
There's a cognitive dissonance.
Yep. So we could talk about this one now. So he signed an executive order. Well, technically it was an executive order. It was, I don't know if it's technically under executive.
Pardons and commissions or commutations.
Yeah. So he pardoned 1,500 around January people that were at January 6th. I do want to point out that one person did not get pardoned because they were like,
refused.
Huh?
Didn't she refuse?
Yeah, she refused it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like,
love
we
her.
were wrong.
She's great. She rocks. She's like, have you heard her interviews? I don't remember her name. If I find her name, I'll put it down below. But she's like a rock star.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, I messed up.
Yeah.
I was brainwashed. I was in the cult, and being in that prison got me out of it. And I don't want to be told that I didn't do this.
I'm not
I did
surprised
this.
It's a woman.
Not surprising it's a woman. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
I think what the crazy thing is, yes, Congress people are being interviewed and they have this like canned response of like, we're not concerned with what happened in the past. Like, we're not going to think about that stuff. I think Trump's answer to that question directly is so telling to me of his weave, quote unquote, or how he can't answer a question outright. So they asked him, Donald Trump, you believe that attacking police officers is wrong? And he said yes. And they said, okay, great. So you pardoned a man who's responsible for physically attacking
tasing a police officer in the neck.
Yeah. I wasn't sure how much we could say, but yes. And he said, yeah, well, we'll have to look at it. Do you know that there are murderers out there? No jail.
Forget his response that he said, we'll look at it. He's already released. You can't look at the pardon anymore. Pardon's done, signed.
He's saying,
over.
You're incorrect. Well, Trump made it clarifying. He went, yeah, well, was it a pardon or a commutation? And he was like, it was a pardon, and this was his name. And Trump goes, yeah, we'll have to look at it. Anyway, there are murderers running free. Did you know that?
Every interview he does, and we'll talk about his Sean Hannity interview in a second.
And I don't mean the ex-wife he buried in New Jersey's golf course.
Yeah, okay. This one I didn't put in, but I want to talk about it before we get to the big one, I think, in the list. Because I think it's hilarious. This is the fun. This is the humor side. It's sad humor, but it's humor. He made an executive order, and I know the number because I've had to repeat it about 100 times because most people don't believe that they made this big of a mistake. It's Executive Order 14166, Section 2, Parts D and E. You can look it up.
Dang. Okay, sources.
In it, via Trump, because he signed it, it's his, even if someone else wrote it, they attempt to define what a male and a female is. And in their infinite wisdom, they decide to say that the definition starts at conception. Well, ladies and gentlemen of the podcast.
Actually, just ladies at this point.
Ladies of the podcast. We are all basically females at conception, because that is why men and women both have nipples, because we grow as females, and then at 6 to 7 to 8 weeks around there, if a Y chromosome is present, it sometimes does, sometimes doesn't grow those reproductive organs that we tend to associate with people who are male. So by that definition, by the government's definition of male and female,
at conception,
we are all females.
Welcome to the disenfranchisement, guys.
Yeah, I hope we all can. But, and I know we joke about this, and it's funny. We can have some laughs with it, but it's also frightening because these are the people that are running our government, and they can't even take a moment to word things correctly before they signed it. He didn't read any of them, I
don't think he reads anything.
No.
I don't put it past him that he would read not a thing. I think one of the things that we do need to keep in mind as we joke about these things, because there needs to be some levity. We are human beings. You cannot, I hope, this is my PSA to everyone listening or anyone listening, is please take care of yourselves. Please take care of your mental health. This is a terrible time to be in. It's so hard to get bogged down with everything that's going on. So when you can find a little levity and make jokes, feel free to do so. I will not be offended. And I hope that the people listening will also not be offended. I forgot where I was going with this, other than the sole purpose of Trump and the GOP is to show Americans that the government is ineffective.
Yeah.
They want to decimate, decapitate, eradicate government and all social programs so that we have to rely on capitalism for everything.
Yeah.
The whole reason that they are appointing people who are so wildly, and that's the episode that's not published, but who are so wildly incapable of holding that position is because they unqualified. Thank you. They want to show us that government doesn't work for us. Yeah. That's the whole point. So yeah, it's stupid that he called everyone a female. But it's also
I must admit though, in all my lives, having everyone come in and just be like, "Hey, girlfriend," has been a hoot. Yeah. It's been a lot of fun.
Maybe they should make all
some
states.
Shania Twain.
Yeah.
I Feel Like a Woman, that may have gotten played like 100 times. So,
Man, I Feel Like a Woman is such a good
yep.
line.
Okay. So the big executive order that obviously will have the most potential ramifications if it goes through, even though there's many people out there that think that there is no way on God's green earth that it will go through. But I do have something to say about that. But his executive order to remove birthright citizenship and pretty much say that there are certain people that the 14th Amendment does not matter to.
Yeah.
For those of you that are unaware, the way birthright citizenship works is it does not matter who your parents are. If you are born in this country, whether to an American citizen or not, you are considered an American citizen.
Mm-hmm.
That is how the 14th Amendment was written. That is how it has been interpreted. I specifically say interpreted because that goes to my next point after. And that is what it means, and it is what is meant since its inception in the Constitution, since its entry into the Constitution. It has been held up again and again.
Yeah.
It has been held up in court more times than probably almost anything else as being a integral part of our Constitution. So this executive order just recently by a federal judge in Washington was put on hold while it goes through the courts. I will also point out that the Republicans in the House of Representatives have also put forth a bill, H.R. 569, to basically do the same thing. They wanted to go to the Supreme Court. We were talking about this.
I wonder why.
We were talking about this before recording started. They wanted to go to the Supreme Court because they want our current Supreme Court to change what America's interpretation of the Constitution is.
Top to bottom, not just the 14th Amendment.
Not just the 14th Amendment, but I mean, and again, they've already done it. Roe v. Wade.
Mm-hmm.
Roe v. Wade was held up because of the Constitution. Like Roe v. Wade existed because Supreme Courts before it said women have a constitutional right to bodily autonomy. Well,
yep.
This current Supreme Court just threw that interpretation of the Constitution. And again, this is where it becomes really important, people. And I know I'm talking a lot in this one, but
I'm loving it.
The problem with the Supreme Court, and in my mind, at least, I mean, it might have been well worded back then, but it's poorly worded right now, Constitution, is it leaves things open to interpretation. The problem with our Supreme Court, the reason our Supreme Court does not put out decisions, they put out opinions. We call it a decision, but it's actually an opinion. It is officially the Supreme Court's opinion, because what they do is they listen to the argument, they look at the Constitution, and they have an opinion. And based their opinion is law.
Like there's a whole, yes, but it boils down to them having an opinion on what the Constitution meant.
Correct. So why does any of us, after the overturning of 50 years of precedent with Roe v. Wade, why would any of us think that this Supreme Court could not look at birthright citizenship, which, by the way, Trump's team is also arguing that Native Americans do not get birthright citizenship?
The original occupants of this country.
Yeah. Who we have squeezed into random areas of this country.
Not just random areas, unfertile.
Yeah. Horrible areas of this country.
Yeah.
They, like, why would anyone think that if they're willing to overturn 50 years of precedent that they could not find a way to
Just from my-
justify overturning whenever
Everything.
the 14th Amendment was written and first argued against, years of precedent. Like, do I think they will? I don't know what I think anymore. I mean, sitting here trying to tell me that having any faith in our judicial system is very difficult right now. So
Well-
when people ask me if they think it's going to happen, I'm like, I would like to think no. I would like to believe everyone who said there is no way that the 14th Amendment, this is black and white. This has been talked about to death. I'm like,
They have, but this is what's crazy to me is that, I mean, maybe it's because it's just too hard to keep up all the time, forever, on what's going on ideologically with either party, or how people are talking about laws that don't matter to you, all that stuff. This has been the ideology that has been set by the GOP for the last 40 years. This is the intention. They built judicial branches. They put people in positions of power intentionally who believe that the Constitution is not a living document.
Yeah.
That has been so clear. The
Yeah.
reason that Scalia was in the news as often as he was before he passed, rip, JK, I don't know if you got the sarcasm,
I felt it a little bit.
rest in hell, Scalia,
I felt it a little bit.
is that he firmly argued that the Constitution is a static document. What that means is it does not matter what society has evolved to right now. It only rules based on when it was created, which means at the time, guess who didn't have rights?
Yep. No,
Anyone
you're right.
who wasn't a white land owning man. That is the goal. And I don't mean to sound alarmist, but that is the eventual goal. They will come for everyone before they come for you, white women last. But they will come for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Land owning white men. That also means white men who are poor or experiencing poverty or do not own land are also subject to not having full rights in this country.
sure.
No.
It's
Well,
it's and I get asked a lot, what do? We talk about it.
yeah.
We talk to people. We fight it when we can, how we can, because we can't do everything. Because again, and, you know, I don't know how many people listening. I doubt many of the people listening are this far left, but maybe there are some. Anarchy is not better. Could it be better later on? Of course, because anything can happen. But I promise you, if you think that with the amount of power that these people that have it all, with the amount of money, with the amount of power, with the amount of things that all of the people in charge around the country have, if you don't think they will still be in charge if anarchy reigns, you're kidding yourself, because they would. They would because they have everything already.
I don't want to be part of the pragmatists group. Like if there are leftists who think that anarchy is the key, I am not the person to tell them it's not. But violence is the tool of the state, right? For all the lefties, go read your Foucault again, because the state has a monopoly on violence. Even if we enact a revolution with violence, the state will always be more violent than we can have the capacity to be.
Yeah.
So in addition to your violence, leftists, might I suggest also thinking about changing ideology, changing how we think of ourselves within the system, changing how we think of capitalism, changing how we think of nuclear families, decimating the arguments that prop up the state is part of the theory if you want to go off and also be violent. But you have to do the ideological work too.
My thing is, there just feels like there is this grass is greener on the other side ideal that we can just overthrow the government and magically put in our own, and
I mean,
everything
that's the
will
American
else
story. Hello?
everything else will
That's
just
the most American thing you've said in here. That is literally, as someone who was born, I'm an American citizen. Don't comfort me. I'm an American citizen. I was born in America, in a colony, if you must know. So my relationship to America is very different than someone born on the mainland.
sure.
This is the whole ideology of America. It was a country founded by rogue people who were in it to make a government that they wanted, and they did it, and they revolted. And guess what? We have the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, so
Yes.
that we can do it
I
again.
understand. No, okay, fair. It took me a second to process what you were saying. But the problem, and I'm just going to go with it because why the heck not? America, or the colonies, were run very differently than what it's like in 2025.
Yeah.
Going from a global society to what it would look like if we just overthrew everything. You think things are tough now? Whew. Could they be better long run? Maybe, assuming the people that took over weren't just as bad.
Sure, but like, that is an American story that we all grew up understanding.
That's fair. Yeah.
So I don't even fault, like, I can't say to leftists, like,
no,
that's not a good idea, or that's like not.
I can say it's not a good idea, but I can understand where they're coming from, and I can empathize with the desire, because the desire's there for me too. I would love it if our current way of running things was gone. I'm
a really good shot. Like, I'm actually very good at shooting pew-pews, but I'm angry as hell. And I've been angry like a majority of my life, but I know that violence doesn't fix things, because all I've seen violence do is destroy. So I'm more interested in having an imagination about how to build a better world outside of state violence.
Yeah. Nope.
I think it's also a very masculine thing to think about if we're going into this. And if you have a party who is looking to eradicate everything outside of what they deem masculine, quote unquote, wouldn't the opposite, whatever that opposite is, be better? So if they consider hypermasculine, like, pushing people out of the way and making it so that women don't have jobs and all these things, wouldn't the opposite of that not be violence? Wouldn't it in turn be caring for people?
Changing the world. There are many ways to change the world.
Yeah. And violence can be a tool, but not the only way.
And definitely, yeah.
But if anyone is building a trebuchet, let me know. That's the only weapon I'm interested in having.
There you go. Okay. Okay. We all know, if you watched any of my content, that I am big on calling out Christian hypocrisy, and when people that say they are Christians do things that I think not only go against what I would consider at least the teachings of Jesus, but make Christians look like absolute horrible people, which in many cases we do right now. So the two things that I want to talk about, only one of them I wrote down, but the other we need to talk about. Trump went to church on the day after inauguration week. During inauguration week.
News that he went to church is sign number one, but he's not a Christian.
Well, that's not what made it news. In the end, let's be fair. What made it news was the bishop was giving her sermon, and in it, she specifically asked Trump for mercy and compassion towards the marginalized communities that are afraid of what Trump and his administration want to do. Mm-hmm. And needless to say, Donald Trump did not take that well. Neither did the people in his party. One of our senators said that she should get deported. By the way, she was born in New Jersey. We can't just
I know
deport
it feels
American
like another country,
citizens.
but New Jersey is part of the U.S.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. There might be some people that wish otherwise, but New Jersey is part of the United States. Many threats, many horrible things have happened to her since she did this. I want to point this out. That was the most Christ-like thing that almost anybody I have seen on the public stage do in a long time. That's not to say there aren't others that have done things, but that is the first Christian who I have seen stand up publicly to the face of Donald Trump
On a pulpit, no
be
less.
a Christian. Yeah. So she, yeah. Also, to go along with the hypocrisy, I do want to point out, and I will.
Can I? Really
Yeah. Sorry.
So about that, the people who said that the bishop should be deported.
Yep.
We should think about saying the quiet part out loud. And again, I'm not saying this to be alarmist. I'm saying this as somebody who studies communications. That is saying the quiet part out loud. The GOP is terrible about keeping secrets secret. They want to tell people what their intentions are because they cannot hold it in. When you look at what happened in Newark and you look at them rounding up everyone, ICE, rounding up everyone, regardless of whether or not they were citizens, regardless of their military service, questioning their military service, the intention is to deport people who are not American. And what they define as American
is in limbo right now.
Whether or not you were born here.
It's true.
It's whether or not you support their ideology, the American ideology. Their American ideology.
See, yeah, and I agree with you. And there's just this part of me, and again, maybe this is the part of me that still wants to think there is some sanity left in the world. I will admit that is a possibility, because I think unless you are an absolutely horrible human being, if you are a good person in this world, you want there to be sanity, and chances are you are hoping in every turn that some sanity shows itself. So I'm sure that this is coming partially from my desire for there to be sanity in the world. The thing that I always struggle with is I always sit here and I go, is that senator on X? Because it's on X, and we know what X is like. We know what Twitter is like. I don't know why I called it X. It's always Twitter. We know what X is like. Is it just a show to keep their base happy? Pretend that they're doing something. They know that nothing's going to happen, but they say it, and their base goes yeah, and then nothing, because they forget. They're like goldfish. They literally forget 5 seconds later what their people said.
You know who doesn't forget? Political strategists. You know who doesn't forget? Stephen Miller. Steve Bannon. That is a way to test the strength of an argument.
Do you think something's going to happen between Steve Bannon and Elon Musk? Because those two are really starting to butt heads.
Steve Bannon is infinitely smarter than Elon Musk. But Elon Musk has a shit ton of capital. So who knows? Listen, I hear you. But I think you're correct. And my husband has the same argument, not to throw him under the bus, but the idea that most normal people just want a semblance of normalcy, just want cohesion, just want sanity, like you say. But your sanity and their idea of sanity is very different.
I understand
when
that.
They position anyone who disagrees with them as not sane, then you all of a sudden make their argument for them. That is why they think that you can deport a bishop who doesn't agree with you, because they're insane.
Yeah. I guess. I don't know.
But this is what I'm saying. Like, this is the autism in me.
No.
And not to say Asperger's, because that is rude that we're even thinking that Elon Musk doing the salute.
Which we're talking about later. Don't worry.
Oh my God. Stay tuned, people.
Yeah.
The idea that the reason that they're going after the 14th Amendment and who it supports and who it doesn't support is to do this work, Mike. Like, we already said this. They are defining who gets to be called an American citizen.
Or they're trying to, at least.
They're absolutely trying to.
Did you see what that judge, the Washington judge, said? Which, by the way, Republican, brought in by Reagan. He's a Reagan judge.
Oh, yeah. That
he was like, this is the dumbest thing I have ever seen in my life, and I cannot believe people that passed the bar actually are making this argument. I love this man. Yeah. He was great. But
a good thing Reagan did.
Yeah, one of the few.
One good thing Reagan did.
But I want to go back to this thing at the church. I also want to point out in the whole realm of Christian hypocrisy. I don't know if you remember, but I remember Christians in this country going absolutely apeshit over our Muslim representatives and our non-Christian representatives putting their hand on anything other than the Bible. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to put a picture up for everyone to see, but Trump didn't put his hand on anything. Mm-hmm. And we didn't hear a peep about it.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like it was less to do with the Quran and more to do with them being Muslim and having positions of power. I don't know.
It seems more to me like it's I'm against everything you do, and if you complain about anything I do, then I just pretend that it doesn't matter, which is a great segue into probably the biggest story of all of these, even though there's some huge stories in this. One of the people with the ear of our current president of the United States, in the wealthiest man on the planet.
I'm sorry, you're not giving him enough credit. He doesn't just have the ear.
He is the president.
He's got the mouth, the head, the financial backing, the Mar-a-Lago itself. He's got everything.
If you haven't seen it, and if you haven't seen it, I don't know where you've been. If you're listening to this, I can't imagine you haven't seen the video of it. I'm not gonna show it here because we don't want to. But Elon Musk, in a post-inauguration rally,
nothing like being sore winners,
decided to do a salute that was reminiscent, not just reminiscent, nearly identical. Why are
we even entertaining this? It was a salute.
I know. Nearly identical, if you watch it, to what Nazis did in Germany. And the the justification and jumping around and finding anything else humanly possible. The best is, you were paying attention to what he said after. He said, you got, I'm throwing my heart to you, or something stupid like that. Like, as though no person in Nazi Germany loved anybody while they were doing, like, those words. None of those words ever came out of anyone's mouth before they did a salute in back then. It was a Nazi salute. There have been videos of them showing that to people in Germany, and they were like, oh, he'd get arrested for that.
Protesters in Germany projected him Sig Heiling onto the Tesla factory. This is why I'm like, we cannot enter a space where we give any room for interpretation.
I understand that. And that was not my goal in the beginning. I was just being a podcaster. I was building suspense.
They don't deserve our kindness. That's what I'm
I
saying.
wasn't being kind. I was building suspense to the story.
I'm so sorry to have judged your podcasting skills. I take it back. But anyone else engaging online who doesn't have a podcast should probably not be entertaining this at all.
No, we should not. Yes, we should not entertain the fact that this is anything but what it was. And you want to know how we know? Because there is a video of him talking to people and going like this. He knows how to heart people without doing a Nazi salute.
It's also disgustingly ableist of people who say that it's because he has autism.
Of course. And have you seen...
autistic people, more often than not, have intense pattern recognition and intense social awareness, and they know what they can and cannot do, what they should and should not do. If you ever question what the unspoken rules of social engagement in a society are, ask an autistic person, because they know.
Yeah.
So Elon absolutely knows what he was doing. Whether he meant it to be Sig Heil because he is himself one of those people is not up for debate. I don't actually care. It's the fact that he is leveraging that motion intentionally.
And again, regardless of whether it was his purpose, he did it.
He did it.
And
then he made jokes about
And then he denied it and made jokes about it. And that's what verifies it in my mind.
This man, there are videos of Elon Musk trying to give a deck presentation to stakeholders, and he cannot explain the charts and graphs behind him that someone else explained to him. And yet he can name drop every single Nazi in a tweet. I don't know if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck. It's a Nazi.
Have you seen videos of the like the 90, 100-year-olds that like in their uniforms that fought on Normandy and all these other places, and they're just in tears at what they are seeing in 5 days.
I'm someone that's obsessed with patterns. There's my autism. I'm someone that's obsessed with patterns of thought specifically, and how thoughts and ideas and theories evolve over time. That is why my name is Theory Thought, period. And I have to look at Elon and where he's from and what his family believed, and why his family was kicked out of Canada. Because they are technocrats, because they believe in eugenics, because they believe in a master race. The writing is and has been on that wall for a very, very long time. All of Elon Musk's children, except for one, actually two now, because of a child he had with Grimes, are male. That is intentional, because he's a eugenicist. And that type of person, whether they think of themselves as a Nazi or not, aligns more with Nazi ideology than the normal human being does. So the fact that he thought it was okay to do a salute that looked even remotely like that at all, not autism, that is intentional.
And I just will say, it's a very sad, it's a sad piece of American reality that anybody in this country would attempt to justify that action, and that anyone who did that would do anything but apologize profusely for doing it in the first place. There is no place in this country, in this world, for any actions or words or deeds or whatever that even remotely bring upon memories of the Nazi Party, what they stood for, and what they did. Regardless of how much you don't like other groups in this world, there is no place for that in a moral and empathetic society. And that it's a sad reality that we are living in, that something as blatant as that can be just rubbed off the shoulder so easily by so many in our society.
I think one of the things that I want to encourage the people listening to think about, and all of us collectively, like as non-MAGA people, is if they are getting to debate, if they are opening the floodgates to debate or to rewrite or to reinterpret what it means to be an American, we should be doing the same. And one of the ways to feel emboldened and to feel powerful in this really strange place right now is to confidently say, that's not American. Anyone defending Nazism, that's not American. That's not American. You're not acting like an American citizen right now.
Yep.
Is calling it out. Yeah. How do we build a moral society again when a lot of us have decided to abandon it entirely, is to just call them out.
And again, this building back from this, no matter what ends up coming from these next 4 years, is going to take time. It's going to take a lot of work by all of us. It's going to take work in our community, whether online or local. It's going to take a lot of conversations. It's going to take a lot of hard conversations, because we are a huge country with a lot of people that have a lot of different ideas. There may be a lot of us that agree on certain things, but we all, in some way, shape, or form, disagree on some things.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to find those areas that we agree with, hold on to those, because it's those areas that we agree with that are going to be how we build back from this. Mm-hmm. If we focus on the minutia, if we focus on the fact that some of us disagree on how an economy should run, how our foreign policy should be,
communism,
whatever. If our focus is deep down in the trenches on the things that there will be 12, 15, 20 different ideas on what the right way to do things are. If that's how we view things moving forward, we will fail. We will continue to fail like we failed this time. We failed in the 2024 election because there was a large group of people, again, not arguing whether they are disenfranchised, not arguing whether they're right, that everything sucks and we need to change things. But we did not come together and find that point where we could agree so we could start moving forward. Because we aren't up here right now. Everybody wants to be down here. They want the fix. They want the end point. Well, we're not at the end point. We're not even close to the end point. The end point is so far away that you wouldn't even realize that there is an end point. That's how far we are from the end. We aren't even at the beginning yet.
Yeah.
So
I love this rallying cry. Right? I think one thing that came to mind is we, as people not in the MAGA realm, have a tendency to, there is some truth to what they say about elitism. There is some truth to what they say about, us thinking that we're smarter than them or all this stuff. And what I want people to think about as they engage in conversations with people that they might not agree with on things that you've mentioned. They might not agree with the economy running a different way than it runs. They might not agree with getting rid of capitalism. They might not agree with abortion. Instead of trying to debate those people, encourage them to have an imagination. Encourage them to offer their own solutions. Encourage discourse to come to an agreement on the things that you agree about. But trying to change people's minds is so 2000 and late. What you can do is work on building from your different disparate places together. There are some things that you're never going to change people's minds about. Find common ground and start from there. And then all the other things will come into play later.
And I will also say, the best way to get someone to listen to you is for them to trust you.
Mm-hmm. And
if you come out of the gates saying everything you think about them and their choices, you know what they're going to do? They're going to stop listening, just like you've stopped listening. We've all stopped listening. We don't listen to MAGA. Why? Because they've called us absolutely wretched things.
Nasty.
And so that's why I strongly disagree with the people that say that, you know, we should be doing the exact same thing, that they're like, we should be fighting back. They're going to go low. We should go low too. That doesn't help the problem. It may make us feel better, but it doesn't help the problem.
Disagreeing on something.
But again, and I know you're saying it sort of jokingly, but in every war that every country has ever been in, I guarantee you, everyone, when one side, who's the aggressor, the bad people, does something really bad, the other side, in order to win, thinks the best way to do it is to get as bad, is to fight the same that they are fighting. And you want to know what happens when you're fighting against somebody who has no morals and you go as low as they do?
They find a new hell.
They go lower.
Yeah.
And then you go lower. And then they go lower. And then you go lower. And it keeps happening until you've lost every bit of yourself that you were when it all started.
And that's the goal.
That's their goal.
Yeah.
We need to stop it from being our goal.
Yeah.
And again, I understand the desire. I understand the feeling. I understand the pain as much as I can. I mean, there are marginalized communities that I will never understand looking as I am and being who I am. But I understand pain, and I understand the desire to stop pain at all costs. And I understand the feeling of helplessness when you see these people that seem like they can do whatever they want and nobody stops them. But the right response is not to be them.
Yeah.
Because we are supposed to be better than them.
But see, are we? No, I'm just kidding.
We're supposed to be better than them.
I know. I agree with you to a lot, and I don't want to run this long, but I agree with you. I do think that when one party has abandoned all pragmatism and they won, perhaps it's worth it for us to adopt less pragmatism in our methods.
Changing methods, okay.
Great. I actually think there is some, but this is what I need people to understand. This is, if I were going to lead a revolution, this is how I would lead it. We have a toolbox.
Are you giving it away now? Online?
Yeah. No. Day 5. Day 5. That's how long I lasted. That's it. Day 5. I'm surprised I lasted this long, actually. We have a toolbox. And in that toolbox, you have many different things to get work done. The work of dismantling fascism, the work of dismantling the ideology that props up fascism, all sorts of tools to fix all sorts of problems. We cannot always reach for the hammer.
Yep.
When you need a screwdriver. Similarly, we cannot always rely on going low as a means of fixing anything. I do think going low is a tool in our toolbox that we can leverage smartly. I also think violence is a tool in our toolbox that can be used, but I don't think that we see the rest of what's in there. I think some of the work that we need to do is to start building that toolbox and imagining other ways that we can dismantle the system. Every war that is fought is also fought ideologically, for example. There is a reason why what was going on in Gaza distracted people or divided people, because the ideological war was not looking well.
Yeah.
So if the state has sanctioned violence, they can be violent. Then maybe we should be thinking about how to break down their ideas and their morality and all this other stuff.
And by the way, did you see the irony in Netanyahu saying that Elon Musk was not
you mentioned Musk, and then I'm like, God, I hate that man the most. And then you mentioned a man I hate more than that.
I know.
Somehow.
Well, I try and bring the love here. What can I say? Theory, thanks for hanging out with me today.
You're the best.
We'll definitely have you back, because I'm sure there'll be lots to talk about over the next 2 to 4 years. Because you know what? In about a year, we're going to have to start paying attention to the midterms, which should be interesting.
Maybe we can start platforming some more progressive people now.
Yeah, there you go.
What?
Guys, thank you everyone who is listening. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. Also, we do have a Patreon that will be down below if you want to support what we do here and make it possible for us to keep putting out episodes like this wonderful one. You just made it all the way through. Theory, thank you again for being here. We will see everybody next time on A More Perfect Podcast. Bye, guys. Bye.